All right, well, we're going to get started. So hello, everybody. My name is Claire Randall, and today I'm going to be doing a presentation about the importance of protein in the body. This is part of our Paving the Path to Wellness series, our health and wellness series presented by our placement students here from Niagara College. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's start by talking about what is protein and why is it important. So protein is one of the three macronutrients that are in the diet. It is comprised of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Those are the three macronutrients that the body needs in order to survive. They provide us energy. In general, carbs should be between 45 and 65% of your diet. Carbohydrates should be between 10 and 35%. And fat should be between 20 and 35%. Proteins are the building blocks of all life, and they are found in virtually every cell in the body. So that can include things like the brain, the muscle, bone, skin, hair, blood, organs. Every single cell that your body has will contain some sort of protein. They are required for the structure, the function, and the regulation of the body's tissues and organs. Just as well as repairing and building the cells and tissues. This is especially important for growth and development in children's, teens, and pregnant women as they are still growing, developing. And obviously for pregnant women, they're trying to grow a human. So protein is very important when it comes to that. Okay, so there are 7 different types of protein in the body. All of them have a different function. So these could include things like enzymes, which are responsible to help with all the chemical reactions that are in the body. Hormonal proteins, these are the messengers that regulate the bodily functions of our body. Storage proteins allow for essential substances to be readily available. Transport proteins carry the substances through the body. Structural proteins would support and maintain the cell structure. So this would be like collagen for the skin and the bones. Protective proteins provide defense against foreign matter, which would be like antibodies that fight off disease. Contractile proteins work to contract the muscle and help with movement in the body. Okay, so now we're going to be talking about how all proteins are made up of a combination of 20 different amino acids in the body. So all proteins are made up of these amino acids, and they're just all in different structures. So what happens is the amino acids all join together to create peptide chains, and these peptide chains create different structures to create different proteins. And the structure of the protein depends on the function and what the protein does. Within those 20 amino acids, there are 9 essential amino acids and 11 non-essential amino acids. An essential amino acid is an amino acid that cannot be made by the body. So it has to come from the diet. Diet is important because it contains the amino acids and the 11 non-essential amino acids. This means that our bodies can produce the amino acids. So it is non-essential that we get it from the diet. So essential meaning we need it in the diet, and non-essential meaning that our bodies are able to make those amino acids themselves by breaking down existing proteins. Believe it or not, there are actually over 10,000 different kinds of proteins in the body. So out of those 7 different types, there are over 10,000 different kinds. So doing different things, different functions, different roles in the body to help perform different tasks. So when we look at protein in the diet, there are 2 different types of sources. So there is a complete protein source and an incomplete protein source. So a complete protein source provides all the essential amino acids, which we said were those 9 essential amino acids that you need to get from your diet. A complete protein source will have all 9 of those essential amino acids. An incomplete protein source means that it's lacking 1 or more of those essential amino acids. So that would mean that maybe there's only 8 out of 9 of those essential amino acids in your diet, and you're not actually getting all of the amino acids that you need. Okay, So how much protein should you actually consume in a day? So the average person needs about a minimum of 0.8 grams of protein per 1 kilogram of body weight per day. So this would mean that in a day, a 68 kilogram individual or 150 pounds needs about 55 grams of protein per day. A 90 kilogram person would need about 72 grams of protein. So obviously, if you are a bigger individual, you will need more protein. That is a good way to kind of gauge how much protein you should actually be eating. Different things can increase our protein intake in different amounts, and that is kind of what we will be taking at next. So when do we need to increase our protein? So many different factors can increase our need to adjust or increase our protein intake, as I just said. This can include exercise, because this causes the body to use more proteins to rebuild the muscle. We will talk about this a little bit further, a little bit later in the presentation, but exercise causes the body's muscles to break down, and then protein needs to rebuild those muscles. If we are trying to lose weight, an increase in protein is needed to keep the individual full, as well as to help them build lean muscle in the body while they are trying to lose weight. Injured or sick, as I said before, the antibodies that contain proteins, as these are being used, being injured or sick, we need to increase our protein intake through our food in order to keep up these processes. As our bodies age, we struggle to break down proteins and digest it for use. So we need more in the diet to compensate for our aging. And then, as I stated earlier, again, it is important for growth and development in children, teens, and pregnant women. So as you are a children, teen, or pregnant woman, you need to make sure that you are getting the minimum amount at least. It is vital as you are still growing, you are still developing. Pregnancy, it's very important to grow a healthy baby. Okay, so almost all foods contain some sort of protein. So this would be something as easy as a baked potato. The size of a baked potato, it would have 4 grams of protein in it. The size of your thumb, that would be this 3 grams of protein for peanut butter. There is 14 grams of protein in 100 grams of quinoa. One single bagel has 10 grams of protein. An egg has 6 grams of protein, and an avocado has 4 grams of protein. So this is kind of just so that you can see and gauge that all different kinds of food will have different sources of protein. It doesn't need to be a specific meat product. Like when you think of protein, you typically think of chicken or beef because they're high in protein. However, all foods will contain some sort of protein in them. And that is what this is just demonstrating. Okay, and now going back to the complete and incomplete sources of protein. So as we can see here, complete sources of protein would be like chicken, beef, ground beef, pork, turkey, anything like that, animal products. So again, same thing with eggs, cheese, milk, and then sandwich meats as well. These are all good sources of complete protein. And then incomplete protein would be more like plant-based items. So these are just some examples: broccoli, spinach, mushrooms, some nuts and legumes, things like that. They are more considered incomplete protein as they do not have all of the essential amino acids in them. So this doesn't make them a bad source of protein at all. This just means that you need to eat more than one protein source at a time in one meal in order to get all of those essential amino acids that you're missing by eating some of these incomplete protein sources. Okay, so now looking at some dietary restrictions when it comes to protein. So this would be like a vegetarian diet or a vegan diet, to name a few. So just some restrictions and some guidelines to follow is the complete source of protein needs to be substituted for multiple incomplete protein sources, as I just stated. So instead of just substituting chicken for tofu, you might want 2 different sources. So here I have beans and lentils. So you would include both of those in your meal instead of the chicken. We will take a look later at an example of like a meal plan for a day. Plant-based supplements are a good way to help meet protein requirement. So Vega protein powder is a good one. That is a vegan plant-based protein powder. Very easy to just put in your protein shake in the morning. include some fruits, and there you go, you're on your way, you have breakfast with protein in it. That'll keep you full, get you started throughout the day. So that's one good way to meet protein requirement if you're struggling as a vegetarian. As well as avoiding processed foods. This is also important because processed foods typically have a lower quantity and a poorer quality of non-essential amino acids. So you're not going to be getting, let's say, some other foods like the vegetables that you see on the left here. They might have 8 out of the 9 or 7 out of the 9 essential amino acids in them. But maybe something like a McDonald's burger or some sort of veggie patty from McDonald's, they might only have 3 out of the essential amino acids. So just things like that, just keeping in mind what it is that you're actually consuming to make sure that you're getting a wide variety of different amino acids in your diet. That will help with the protein production. Okay, and this is just another example of different cultures and the way that they actually can consume protein. So some things like grasshoppers, that is consumed in Mexico, Thailand, Africa, to name a few. So this is a really, really, really high source of protein. And they actually eat this as a snack or in their meals. It has 20.6 grams of protein per 100 grams of grasshopper. So that's a really high source of protein and easy to get, accessible in those locations. Same thing like in Iceland, Canadian territories, and the Arctic. It's common to eat puffin. So they're not going to have the normal things like cows that they can eat or pigs. So they're going to resort to other food sources for protein. So same thing, 20.6 grams of protein per 100 grams of puffin. Japan has octopus, which they typically have on their menu. So some people might think that that is a little bit odd or strange. However, it would be typical and totally normal for that to be on a menu. So there's 30 grams of protein in 100 grams of octopus. And then French cuisine could include frogs and snails. These are also relatively high in protein and not typically eaten here in Canada, but normal over there in France. So these are just some different looks at different proteins and why that would be important just to know. Different cultures, sometimes we don't always think about these specific items and these specific things. But yeah, different cultures are going to be eating different sources. Okay, so this is a fun little trick. So human beings aren't able to store protein in the body at the same rate of carbs and fats. So since we're not able to store this, it is very important that we eat consistently. We're consistently consuming protein. So there's no point consuming 100 grams of protein at one time. Your body's just going to get rid of the rest because that it's not using, just because it can't store it in the body. So it is just excreted once you, like with the stuff that you're not using. So a really good rule of thumb or a way to gauge how much protein to include in your meals is 1 serving size of either fish or a chicken, 3 ounces, which is roughly the size of your palm. So that would give you about 25 to 30 grams of protein in one meal just from that meat source. Same thing if you're a vegetarian, the size of your palm, or the incomplete protein sources as well. This kind of gives us a good gauge as like people that are larger individuals would probably have larger hands, which would mean that their palms are a little bit larger, which would mean that they're probably consuming a little bit more protein than someone else who's a little bit smaller or has a little bit smaller of a body size. So that's kind of a good rule of thumb to gauge, kind of thinking that every meal you want to make sure that you're including about the size of your palm of a protein source. Okay, so this is looking at a sample day of eating here. So when we look at this, we can see that for the no dietary restrictions day, basically, we start off with some breakfast, which has bacon, 2 eggs, toast with peanut butter, and coffee. So this has the protein source of bacon as well as the peanut butter. and the eggs also. So this has a bunch of protein in this breakfast, which is a really good way to start out your day. A good snack would be protein in a smoothie. So protein shake, same thing. Like I said before, I said that for the dietary restrictions, but there's not stopping anyone from having a protein shake. There are tons of protein powders out there that can provide different flavors and things to make it interesting for your smoothie and get that extra protein in. So lunch, grilled chicken tacos, that's a little bit more fun rather than a typical sandwich or something like that. Dinner would be like chicken breast, your regular potatoes, veggies, maybe some garlic bread on the side that has all of your different proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Now looking at maybe a vegetarian diet, we could include things. So we get rid of the bacon and maybe we have Greek yogurt, oats, fruit, protein powder, and orange juice. So the oats and the protein powder, as well as the Greek yogurt, is actually very high in protein. So this is, again, a very high protein breakfast. So different snacks, maybe apples with some peanut butter or a handful of nuts to snack on. The peanut butter, again, like we said before, protein, and as well as the nuts would provide an incomplete protein source. However, paired with the peanut butter creates enough of two incomplete protein sources, which would contribute to the essential amino acids. So lunch could be something as simple as a salad with chickpeas, nuts, veggies. Chickpeas and nuts are both protein sources, as well as the chocolate milk is as well. And then dinner, something like pasta, tofu, veggies would be a good thing to eat while you're maybe a vegetarian. So these are just some samples. There are other things that you can have. You can swap out any of the meats for anything else, any of the incomplete protein sources for anything else. This is not a guide, not a recommendation, maybe more of just a guide of some things that you would be able to try to get that protein in and make sure that you're getting that protein in as much as you're supposed to have per day. So now when we talk about exercise, so as I mentioned earlier, protein causes the muscles to break down. So what happens is there's an exercise stimulus that causes the muscles to break down. It's an acute stress on the body and actually causes trauma to the muscles. So as traumas, like acute traumas to the muscle, that causes muscle breakdown. As there's muscle breakdown, this causes the proteins in our body to synthesize and adapt. So proteins then work to build the muscle up and adapt for the next time that there is an exercise stimulus. So that is why we have to progressively overload when we are exercising in order to get that adaptation. If you're not stressing the body enough after the body has already adapted, that could be why because the proteins need to rebuild the muscles. They need to have time and they need to have enough adaptation to adjust in order to help the body for the next time that occurs. And this is kind of saying the same thing. So although there is adequate protein throughout the day, extra strength training is what actually leads to muscle growth, not extra protein intake. So you can't build muscle without exercise that goes along with the protein, meaning that if you were to consume, like I said, 100 grams of protein and then go work out really hard and then consume the protein, that doesn't mean that you're going to build more muscle. You also can't not exercise and consume a whole bunch of protein and just assume that that's going to cause muscle growth. You need to have that adaptation on the muscles for the protein to rebuild them in order to adapt and gain strength in the body. Same goes for weight loss. You need to be increasing your protein intake in order to keep you full, in order to have the body adjust to the stress that is put onto it. As we're trying to lose weight, we are, again, putting stress onto the body. And as we're putting stress onto the body, the protein is needing to adapt and keep us full as well when we're trying to lose weight. And that is all. So if there are any questions or anything, you can just put it into the Facebook Live chat. That is all from me. Thank you for watching.